Today, let's talk about how we turned our EOS R into a baby cinema camera. Which parts did we use and why did we do it in the first place? My name is Damien and welcome to Monkey Pixel.
We've got some fresh new young talent doing some things that I know you haven't heard before.
1, 2, 3, listen.
So after uploading last week's video about getting better handheld footage, I got a lot of questions about what parts did we use and if the rig actually helps or not and why we rigged out the EOS R. So today I want to show you and introduce you to our small baby cinema rig that we use for the EOS R. So not to give you a false impression of what you're about to see, we're not doing some crazy rigging of a small mirrorless camera and turn it into this huge cinema camera, but rather trying to make up for the lack of features that a cinema camera has. So what are the major features that a cinema camera has that the EOS R lacks and what we're trying to make up for? And there are three big things that come to mind when talking about cinema cameras. And number one is a better audio control. Number two is the better ergonomics, and I already talked about this in the handheld shooting video. And number three is the lack of internal ND filters. And of course, there's various differences between mirrorless cameras and cinema cameras other than the three things that I just mentioned. And interestingly enough, in 2020, the line seems to blur a little. And if you're interested in me making a video more detailed about the differences of a cinema camera and the EOS R, or basically every mirrorless and DSLR camera in general, drop a comment down below and let me know. But now let's actually talk about the rig itself. And the first thing that you'll notice is the heart piece, and that is the cage. And that's precisely what it sounds like. It's a small metal cage that you put your camera into. And with this cage you have a lot more mounting options than you usually have on your camera. On the EOS R itself you only have a hot shoe on top and a 1/4-20-inch thread on the bottom. And when attaching the cage you have various more options. You have an additional cold shoe mount on top, as well as various threaded holes to mount various kinds of accessories. And our cage is from a company called SmallRig, and they're known for a huge arsenal of different kind of mounting options and cages for all kind of different cameras. There's all kind of different brands out there that produce cages and additional accessories for cameras. SmallRig is probably one of the better known, and it's really good when it comes to the bang of the buck you're getting out of it, because it's rather on the cheaper side, but it's also still pretty good quality. So after putting our EOS R into the cage, the first thing we did is attach a so-called NATO Rail on top of the cage. And this little NATO Rail is pretty cool, because if you have equipment that supports the NATO Rail system, you can easily attach and detach all kinds of equipment to your cage without having to pull out a screwdriver or just fiddle around with a lot of screws. And on top of the NATO Rail sits another product from SmallRig, and that is just a regular top handle. And this top handle comes with another cold shoe on top and a lot of mounting screws as well. So not only do you have more options to actually mount stuff to your camera now, but you also have a way of grabbing the camera better than without the top handle. And that makes for better handheld footage, as well as just an overall better experience when working with the camera and having to carry it around. So now what I did is I added another additional cold shoe mount on the side of the gimbal. And that comes in pretty handy to attach a microphone, for example. And if you're wondering, yes, the cold shoe is from SmallRig as well. And on top of this handle, we have another accessory by SmallRig, and that is a monitor mount. And I'm using one that is attached via the cold shoe, but there's also some that are directly attached to the top handle via 1/4-20-inch screws. I chose one that is attached to the cold shoe because it just makes it way easier and faster to detach if I wanted to. And this little monitor mount is pretty cool because now you can quickly and easily change the position of your monitor. Not only can you turn it around 360 degrees if you want to film yourself, but you can also just tilt it back and forth to get a better viewing angle. So with the cage and the top handle, we added a little bit more weight as well as another option to grip your camera, and we kind of fixed the ergonomics problem. And by adding an external monitor, we also make it easier to judge our exposure, focus, as well as framing, especially when down in low angles. And the monitor that we're currently using is the Fieldworld Lot 7 that I've already reviewed, but obviously this is a really big setup and kind of unnecessary for a camera like the EOS R. So I would probably recommend going for a 5-inch monitor because the EOS R has a pretty good autofocus system, so you don't really need to adjust your focus most of the times, and a 5-inch opposed to a 7-inch brings down the setup a little bit more and makes it more compact. And the 5-inch monitor we are currently using is the small HG Focus, and I can't 100% recommend this monitor as it's not really bright and it has a proprietary HDMI cable system, which I really hate. So I would probably look in Theodor Rail's direction and choose one of their 5-inch monitors for a small and compact setup with the EOS R. So the next thing we wanted to tackle is the audio situation, because most cinema cameras have XLR audio as well as on-body audio controls, which is pretty neat when running and gunning or you're on a documentary shoot and you want to quickly make changes to your audio levels. When trying to do this with the EOS R, you need to go into the menu and change settings there, which is pretty annoying and time consuming. So our weapon of choice here is the Rode Video Mic NTG that I also did a full review on. And without diving too much into it, because I already did a full review on it like I already said, there is two main key features that make this the perfect choice for the EOS R and our baby cinema camera rig. And number one is that you have gain controls on the physical microphone itself, so that makes it really easy to quickly adjust your audio levels. And number two is that you can move the microphone back and forth, and with our rig that comes in pretty handy because now it's not in the way with the top handle grip like a VideoMic Pro Plus, for example. So and if you're wondering, what about XLR audio? Yes, we don't have XLR audio on the EOS R, but for me this really isn't a problem. Yes, XLR audio has higher quality in cables and it is more secure. But in years of filmmaking, I never had a situation where I had a 3.5mm headphone jack getting loose on my camera and therefore not recording audio. And it's also sitting on top of the camera, and even when using it like this, because now it goes directly into my camera via the headphone jack instead of XLR audio, and it's still not a problem at all. But if you run longer distances and you need a longer cable like 5 or 10 or even 20 meters, then you should definitely go for an XLR audio solution. And by the way, I'm always trying different kind of setups with the EOS R or even the Pocket 6K, different kind of rigs that don't really make it into an entire YouTube video, but I will share a lot of these things in my stories on Instagram, so if you don't already, make sure to follow me on Instagram as well. So the last thing we want to tackle is the ND filter solution, and we're currently mostly using RF lenses, so we can't really make use of the internal ND filter situation that the EOS R has. But if you're not using RF lenses, then I highly recommend checking this out. If you're primarily shooting video, there is an adapter that has drop-in variable ND filters, and I think this is a great tool to turning your EOS R into a baby cinema camera. And like I already said, if it wasn't for the use of RF lenses, we would definitely get the ND filter solution for the EOS R. But when using RF lenses, you obviously have a choice of ND filters as well. We were using some Hoya Pro ND filters before, which I 100% cannot recommend. They have horrible color casting as well as cross polarization issues, so I really wouldn't recommend them. And for us, there's two things that are important when it comes to ND filters, and that is flexibility, because I don't want to have to screw them on and off all the time. And the second thing is that I want to have the highest quality possible. So what we did is we decided to go with Freewell's magnetic ND filter system that I also did a review in the past about, but we also added some more of these magnetic ND filters, and now we can quickly switch from one lens to the other and just go from no ND filter to ND filter in a matter of seconds. And the cool thing about the ND filters from Freewell is that they're solid ND filters, and that means they have a much higher quality than any variable ND filter in front of your lens could ever give you. You don't have to worry about cross polarization, nor do you have to worry about a color cast or a loss of sharpness. So I can definitely recommend the Freewell magnetic filter system, and I also have links about them in the description below. And one little quick tip that I like to share with you before we wrap this up is one thing that I like to do when attaching a cage to my camera. So when using a DSLR or DSLM, you only have 1/4 inch thread on the bottom of the camera to attach a tripod plate to. And that is really annoying and insecure because it starts moving around a lot. And now with having the cage attached, you have the option of using tripod plates that have 2 screws attached, and that makes it so much more secure, and you don't have the problem that your tripod plate is moving around. But even when using a tripod plate for a Crane 3, for example, that only features 1/4 20-inch screw, you can still make that work. So what I did is I just attached another 1/4 20-inch screw. This is just screwing me literally over the entire video, and I had to do 100 takes for this. Anyway, so I attached another one of those screws, and then I used a small step-up ring to go from the smaller to the bigger screw size. And now you can easily fit this secure on the bottom of your cage, and now you don't have the problem of the plate moving around on you. And that is such a blessing. So there you have it. This is our EOS R rig that we use for running and gunning when shooting, primarily with the EOS R. And if you're interested in more rigs, like I already said, follow me on Instagram, or you can also subscribe to our channel because I will put out more videos. I will probably put an entire rig series for the Blackmagic Pocket 6K, because this gets a lot more complicated because this camera needs way more attention than an EOS R. So stay tuned for this as well, and I hope to see you on the next one.